So my twin boys were 2 years old. We only had 2 nappies left and the boys were shitting with the regularity of a pair of cuckoo clocks. One of us needed to go and get nappies and the shops were due to close within the hour. So I volunteered, since it was my mistake and I wanted to rectify it. And of course my wife protested, "What? Leave me here with these 2 bundles of joy." Teething was causing the nappies to be loose and the tempers short. And at any given moment, a regional heat for tantrum of the year would just break out in our house. Because before kids, nipping to the supermarket on a Saturday evening to grab a few bits while your partner lies on the sofa is quite rightly seen as a bit of a pain in the arse. But after your little ones arrive, the mere thought of elbowing your way down the frozen food aisle just to get near the bog-offs feels like a 5-star fortnight in Barbados compared with another hellish afternoon of trying to placate an angry, teething toddler who doesn't want to do the jigsaw they've just begged you to get down from the shelf. "But you said you wanted to do a jigsaw." "I did. Now I don't, okay?" So I couldn't go to the shop on my own, because that wasn't fair. So I chose to utter the most ill-advised sentence since 1987 BBC weatherman Michael Fish told the nation, "There will not be a hurricane," the day before there was a hurricane. "I'll take the kids to Asda with me then." She looked at me like I'd offered to swim to the moon. "Are you sure? I'm a modern dad," I thought. "I can do these things. It'll be fine, don't you worry. You'll never make it." I'd love to say she breathlessly cried this to me in the tone of a damsel in distress as I heroically set off for battle, but instead she snorted it as she closed the front door and left us to begin our suicide mission. I felt like Roy Schneider in Jaws. I'd prove her wrong. I'd prove them all wrong. I was coming back with a fucking shark under my arm. I tried the parent and child spaces, but as usual, they were all taken. I didn't even have time to shout at the young guy in a smart car, who, judging by the sprightly and optimistic look on his face, was clearly childless. Prick! But I carried on and found a spot. Then I couldn't find a trolley with a double seat, so I considered for a minute just putting one in the seat and letting the other one trolley surf his way through the journey. Then I realised that was a shit idea, and I didn't want to leave him in the car unattended while I went to find the proper trolley. But I had no choice, so I locked him in and set off to find one. And before too long, I was like 100 yards away and on the verge of abandoning me kids. So I went back to the car and got them out. And then dragging the boys alongside me, I somehow managed to find a double trolley. And it's times like this you really find out who your friends are. And my trolley token keyring had turned into a little turd who'd buggered off at the first sign of trouble. No bother, I'll just use £1 instead. And naturally, my last £1 had been spent on a terrible Peppa Pig ride for the kids that morning, which made them cry as soon as it started moving, so the whole thing had been a completely pointless endeavour. And this mission simply wasn't possible without a trolley. And I'd cursed this fact before, that the nappies were right in the bowels of the supermarket. If I was in charge, they would have been outside next to the charcoal and flowers. But then if I was in charge, there'd also be snipers on the roof to shoot any misusers of the parent and child spaces, so maybe I'm not the right person to be in charge. So we went back to the car and I put them back in the car seats. The dream was over before it had even begun. We had no trolley, no money, and we had to go home. Broken, broke, and nappyless. But that's when I noticed the cash machine. Its neon light shining through the drizzle like the Star of Bethlehem. If I could just get there and withdraw a tenner, I could buy something and then use the change to get a trolley. We'd have to walk and cross a busy road, but there was a zebra crossing. So I got both boys back out the car and we set off towards the cash point. We get to the road, the busy road, so I'm holding the hands of both twins. It kind of feels like I'm skiing, but mainly in the fact that I don't want to be here and it's getting quite dangerous. But both lads seem to be enjoying the little adventure though, and that's when I got a little bit cocky. "Yeah, this is the kind of dad I want to be, yeah. I'll take them camping and we'll go to Glastonbury and we'll build rafts and live in a yurt and go travelling, and they'll thank me for enriching their lives and broadening their horizons." As we walked over the zebra crossing, I pictured us all on the cover of the Beatles' Abbey Road album, and that was the moment Ben decided to sit down. Now, on the list of places that are totally inappropriate to sit down, I'd say that the middle of a main road has to make the top 3. Probably just below an airport runway and any wedding dance floor when Don't Stop Me Now by Queen comes on. But having no time to begin the delicate negotiation process, I just scooped him and Zach up and ran to the pavement. One of the drivers actually beeped and I just silently wished him nothing but hemorrhoids. The cash point was right there now, but there was a queue and the rain was getting heavier. There was a homeless fella asking everyone for loose change. When he saw me, he actually said, "Ooh, you must have your hands full." It felt really strange to be offered sympathy by a man with no fixed abode and one shoe. For a minute, I was tempted to ask him for a quid for the trolley, but I decided against it. So I get me tenner, now I've just got to get get back to the shop to change it. Near the entrance there was a load of cereal on offer, so I just shoved the box of shreddies under my arm and dragged the boys to the 9 items or less till. As we got to the till, a guy with exactly 9 items dived in front of us. What a bastard. I should have just politely asked if he would have minded us going in front, but my brain was frazzled. And anyway, this is Great Britain, so I just stood there in silence. I thought to myself, maybe I should sneak an extra item into his basket, because then I could cry foul to the shop assistant and hope to be moved up the queue. I even considered getting the kids to do it for me, like some kind of reverse Fagin. Of course, I did none of this. I just queued behind them, shaking me shreddies like they were a huge passive-aggressive maraca. So we bought the shreddies and got the change. And my kids were starting to get pretty pissed off by this point, and who can blame them? Toddlers' moods are like the British weather, unpredictable and guaranteed to ruin a picnic. Because when your child loses their marbles for no reason, you can kind of emotionally detach yourself from it. But when you've caused the tantrum yourself, you're filled with guilt and self-hatred, as well as a fresh bout of tinnitus. If you go camping in the UK, you're a fool to not expect rain. And if you drag 2 toddlers in and back out of Asda before you've even picked up your friggin' trolley, you can expect an international incident. Sometimes there's warning signs that a tantrum's on its way. Other times they turn up quicker than a wasp at a barbecue, and we were just inside the store when Ben pulled the cord and just went for it. He lost his footing slightly and embarked on one of those 5-second pratfalls that Charlie Chaplin would have been proud of. Whereas Zach went for a different move, he just started sort of rolling around on the floor like he was practicing some new kind of angry yoga. And the scorn people fire your way when you're with a kid having a tantrum is astonishing. You probably get a warmer reception from fellow shoppers if you goose-stepped your way around Asda completely bolloco, juggling a pair of steaming fresh jobbies while you sung Come On Eileen. So everyone was now staring at me, and as Zach held onto the shelving and bended windmills on the floor, I'm trying to pull their arm, and at this point it looks like I'm trying to kidnap a pair of kids. And let me tell you, if I was, I wouldn't have picked these 2. We staggered outside and I found a loose double trolley, which meant that I didn't even need the newly acquired pound coin in my hand after all. Bastard! This sent my blood pressure into orbit. I would have abandoned the mission at this point, but it was nappies. You need nappies. But I did consider me other options, you know. We could just go all hippy-dippy and fashion some cloth ones out of old towels. Or maybe call Deliveroo and see if they could bring some round. But the screaming of Ben brought me sharply back into focus. He was not very happy about this. And I knew this because he bit me on the arm while trying to pull my glasses off. And I was beginning to worry that we'd be featured on the news if we didn't get the job done soon. So I just forced both boys into the trolley and started legging up and down the supermarket like some post-apocalyptic version of Supermarket Sweep. Zach was now choking on his tears as if they were made of gravel. And Ben just kept shouting, "No! No! No!" at the top of his voice, only stopping when he managed to throw a box of cream eggs on the floor. I grabbed 3 boxes of nappies, and on the way out happened to pass the wine and chocolate section, somehow managing to grab a shitload of both in the process. And by the time we reached the till, they quietened down. By the time we got to the car, they were in good spirits. And as we drove home, I took a few deep breaths and sarcastically asked them, "Did you enjoy that, boys?" "Yeah," they both replied. Suppose everyone needs a hobby. I opened the front door and my wife was just waking up from a snooze. I was battered and bruised, mentally and physically, but I'd survived. And more importantly, I had the nappies. I'd come home with a shark under my arm. Even if that shark had taken a huge bite out of my sanity.